Good morning, gardening friends. It's now Sunday, and I'm actually going to try and get this video up today, but I got a lot to cover, and the first thing I wanted to cover today is an experiment that we haven't talked much about. I just kind of let it be, and most everything in here has died. But in the center there, in the clear bottle, and I don't know how well you can see it because of the way the sun is right now, that one particular bottle is a zinnia, and it's still alive, and it's just barely crested the top. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and empty out some of the other bottles. I'm going to put in, I went back and I looked at an old experiment, similar experiment I did a few years back, and I'm going to try and plant some bean seeds and see if they do any better. But I'm also not going to be using soil, so I'm going to recover the soil from those bottles and we'll see where we go from there. Okay, so it's about a half hour later. It took me probably about 20 minutes to empty out one bottle, so I think this is going to be a process I'll have to do over several days. Well, 4 days, 3 more days now. Anyway, what it involved was I took a piece of bamboo stick that I had, and I used that to kind of stir up the soil that was in there, fill it with a little bit of water, and then pour it out into a bucket. And I ended up with a bucket full of water and soil in it, and I've poured off the top of the soil, but the soil is so wet that it's starting to come out with the water, so I've now sat that on top of my air conditioner in hopes that the vibration of the air conditioner will actually kind of vibrate it down and separate the water from the soil a little bit more, and then I'm going to have to let the soil dry out before I can really use it. Meanwhile, I filled the bottle. I put in, because toilet paper is actually designed to break down. If you think about it, you put it in your toilet and you don't want it to stay like, like a paper towel or an actual cloth towel. You never want to flush something like those because they don't break down and it will eventually clog up a plumbing system. Anyway, so that's why I use toilet paper, and I have about 4 or 5 squares in the bottom of the bottle and about an inch of water, enough to cover up the seeds. These are bean seeds, which I've done before, and they will probably grow very well, although the main unknown here is what the color of the bottle, what effect that will have. So that's pretty much kind of restarting this experiment, and we'll see if we can track it for a while. I'll see what I can do about the rest of the bottles. Okay, so now here we are at about 1 o'clock, and I've been tracking the sun, in part because I've been making a lot of changes, and I kind of want to be able to see where my pots are relative to how much sun they're getting, so I can figure out if I need to rearrange things. I've made a number of little changes around here, so let me give you the tour. First, we have these 2 little buggers. On the right, we've got an impatient. I picked that up yesterday as a rescue from one of the local home centers, where they basically put out the plants that they think don't quite look so good that anybody's going to buy them, and they deeply discount them. This was half price. That is replacing the Snapdragon that was in that position because it basically just wasn't doing well. Now, impatiens are actually shade plants, so I think they'll do a lot better here than the Snapdragons, which really are looking for a lot more sun and a lot more water. Actually, as I understand it, the impatiens, they don't like to go from wet to dry back to wet, so I got to make sure I keep them consistently watered. On the left, I've got a marigold plant that replaces the one that was there. Now, that marigold came from the nursery, the little pots. The one that was there actually came from a local dollar store, and I'm not sure what happened. It may have been last weekend's extreme heat that actually killed it. I had noticed before that one of the flowers had been kind of bent over and wasn't doing well. I did save the flower heads, so I've got seeds ready to go to plant more marigolds. Next up, we've got the zinnia on the right, which that's basil on the right, it's zinnia on the left. The basil is also a transplant I did yesterday. That's replacing, I forget exactly what was sitting right, that was actually not replacing. That's filling in. I've moved one of the nasturtium plants, and I'll show you that in a moment. But I then had an empty paver there, so I put the basil in that place. And the zinnia on the left, I'm actually trying to remember now what was there before. That actually that has been sitting there for a little while. But that's also a transplant from the nursery, so that seems to be doing fairly well where it is. Also, if you look down below, careful viewers will figure out that there actually used to be a couple of plants there. I've actually dug them up and put them in pots, mainly because there was a volunteer tree growing there, and I think that volunteer tree is the same thing as the big tree here in the garden, which is the magnolia tree. I think it is. I'm not 100% sure, but let me show you that. This would be the tree. What really caught me off guard was while I was raking up a lot of leaves from this tree, and you can still see some. You can see some of them on the ground. I actually got rid of all the leaves a couple hours ago, and this is how much more has fallen in just a couple of hours. But as I was raking them all up, I noticed that there were cones and some softer leaves, and I started thinking about it. I said, wait a minute, softer leaves, that probably means flowers. So I finally, for the first time, and I don't know why I never thought of this, I looked up. And I don't know if that's going to come out or not, but there are actual flowers up there. Let me show you one of them. Now that was a little bit of a tricky shot to get. I had to go up on the second floor, I had to use my monopod, and I had to stick it into the tree to try and actually get a picture of a flower. And that flower was actually white yesterday, so the flowers pass rather quickly, and then they land on the ground. But it was a pleasant surprise to see that I actually had a flowering tree up above my garden. So there it is. After being dug out of the ground and put in a pot, we'll hope that it survives. It seems to be doing good a day later, so just time will tell whether it actually has succeeded or if I've actually killed the plant. To the left of that, it's a little hard to see with the mottled sun on it, but that's coleus, and that also came from the nursery. So you can see I'm doing pretty well with the nursery plants. And in the back, I've got something new. I'm calling that my super simple garden shelf. It's actually, I just needed a place to be able to put some of these pots. I didn't want to leave them on the air conditioner for too long because I've been running the air conditioner a lot, and I was afraid that the vibration or the heat coming off of the air conditioner would kill the plants. So that's what I've got back there. It's really just in the heat. I wasn't really walking around much. We've got the fire going on since last weekend too. That's still rolling up in the hills there, although they've got it at 62% contained. So my experience from fires up in the hills, and CAL FIRE is doing a great job of coordinating it and getting it taken care of, but they tend to let them burn to a certain degree to consume the fuel so that they don't have to come back shortly afterwards because some little hot spot came back. So they just let it consume the fuel and get a line around it, and right now they got it 62% contained. So but anyway, because of that, I was out in order to go out and get my walking in during the week. I've been going to large shopping centers and what have you, and just walking around them with the air conditioning, which has some filtering on it, so I'm not sucking in so much smoke. And so the reason I mention all of that is the two black pots that you see there are actually not pots, they are garbage cans I picked up at IKEA for $1.49 a piece, and I got for basically about $2.50. I got a cedar board, and I put that across the two of them. If I need a little more support, I can throw another garbage can in there, or if you want to try this yourself, if you get a couple of empty pots that are the same size, you can just put them on the ground, put a board across them, and you're off and running. You can get some stuff off the ground. This also helps me with the gardeners coming around and blowing everything with their leaf blowers. Unfortunately, the riverbed project is not doing so well, and I kind of suspect, since they were very light seeds, and you can kind of see them at the very bottom of the frame there, or you can see that area, It was not. When you sow those seeds, you tend to put them on top of the soil, and if it dries out enough and they come around with a powerful enough leaf blower, they'll just blow the seeds right out of there. Now, I did find one little sprout, and there was also another one that looked like it was a sprout, which has since disappeared. And that's pretty much the update on the riverbed project. Other than that, I think, I guess what I'll give you is the picture of the week here. The magnolia tree, which was a total surprise to me, and actually made me really kind of feel warm and fuzzy, because a magnolia tree is really more of a southern tree. They tend to grow a lot in the south, and my mom's from the south. So I wanted to get a picture of the actual flower from the magnolia tree. That's the picture of the week, and this is the Budget Gardener signing off, saying may your thumb be green.